Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining the Women in Tech event. We're slightly delayed mostly because of me. This is Chandra Whitley, and I can't get my camera on. So, thanks everybody for your patience. You'll have to listen to my voice. You can see everybody else's beautiful faces here today. But can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys give the emoji on yours if you can hear the audio okay? Ooh,
Excellent.
we got some thumbs up coming our way, which is great.
There we go.
Cool. Well, everyone, I know for anybody that's joined the Women in Tech event before in the community that we started, we're trying to keep it a little bit lively here and switch it up from month to month, and so might be a little bit different format than what you've seen before. We've done some panels, we've done some demos, a bunch of different stuff. This month, especially, is slightly more meaningful to Jordan and Kristen and I, mostly because they have actually joined forces with the Harbor team. We've known the folks over at Harbor I've known them for 15 years. Some of us that are on this today have known them longer. Really well respected in this industry, and really wanted to take you through one of their platforms, have an introduction. I will not even do the introduction of who Harbor is and everything. I'll leave that to Kristen and Jordan, who have been onboarded and know the technology really well. But please, as we go through this, I know everybody is muted. Feel free to send us any questions that you have in the chat, provide feedback, emails, whatever you feel is necessary. We're trying to make sure that this is useful for everybody, as well as the other big piece is that we want to make sure any topics that you see relevant going forward, please shoot those over to us. We want to make sure that this gets meaningful. Really, as anybody, I don't want to go through the whole introduction, but anybody that knows when we kicked this off originally, the whole purpose of this, we imagined this big community gathering with everybody hanging out and networking. And since we have to do that in a little bit different format this year, we just still want to make it meaningful. So as always, please make sure that you provide any feedback as we go. I'll turn it over first to Kristen Koenig.
Actually, I'm going to push it back over to Jordan.
Oh,
Good morning, everyone. So yes, I'm Jordan. I just started with Harbor back in August, and I'm super excited to be with a company that really shares my values for their customers and their goals and just keeping their best interests at heart. I'm excited to spend this next hour with you just exploring one of the many facets that they really excel in and really do dive in and help their customers with. I'll let Kristen Koenig introduce herself and get a little bit deeper.
Thanks, Jordan. Good morning, everyone. I just want to take a second to thank you. I know summer was a little rough, and we appreciate everyone sticking with us and still joining after all the craziness that happened. Similar to Jordan, I started with Harbor in August, and again, we've worked with them for years and years, and their reputation in the industry is one of the reasons that pushed me to work there. And honestly, I've been so happy. It's been a breath of fresh air. Harbor's actually just celebrated 25 years in business. We are one of the largest Mitel partners in the Northeast. I'm going to introduce Jeremy, who has been with Harbor for about 17 years. He's our VP of technology, and his job really is to find and develop any new products and services to offer our clients. These solutions can include anything from communication technologies such as telephony, video collaboration, and also on the network infrastructure side with products like Wi-Fi and firewalls. I'm going to hand it over to Jeremy, who is not on camera yet. So I'll let him kick it off, and we'll get into this. Again, you guys, we don't really have any mics on. Hey, Jeremy. So if you guys have any questions up in the top of your screen, just click on that, and you can ask any questions you want, and Jordan and I will be taking a look at that throughout the presentation, and we'll get to them.
All right, thanks, Kristen. Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it. I'm happy to have this opportunity today to kind of show you what we're excited about and talk things. I'm sorry we can't be interactive. Sometimes there's just too many people in a webinar to do that. So yeah, if you do have questions, there is a little Q&A thing. You can type your question in, and we'll get to those at the end. I actually went to the office today, which is a good thing. I know most of you are probably not in the office, but we do get a chance. Life has been pretty different, but one of the greatest parts about it is what we're talking about today is and has been incredibly relevant to working remotely and doing pandemics. So, we haven't been waiting to open our restaurant. Rather, we've been helping people with communicating and so forth. So, let's get right into it. What I'm talking about is something called Harbor Cloud Elevate. It's a collaboration and communications platform. I'll talk a bit about features. I'll talk about decision points and things like that, and we'll see how we do. Give me a thumbs up with the little emoticon if you can see my web share here. Make sure we can see that and you guys can all hear me well. Excellent. Thanks, John and everybody. So the first thing I'll do is just reiterate a little bit about Harbor Networks. We are not an IT shop. We're really have been concentrating on communications collaboration over the years. Doing a lot of phone system work, whether it was Nortel long ago or ShoreTel or MyTel. We obviously picked names with tel in the name so that they always rhymed so that people knew what they were selling. We obviously, with the times going forward, as things became more computerized and used the internet or voice over IP, we had to add some expertise around networking equipment. So we had to do firewalls and Ethernet switches and things like that. And we really stayed hovering around the infrastructure side rather than becoming a typical IT shop and working on people's desktops. We've always had a very consultative approach where we spend a lot of time explaining things and talking about things and not charging for that. And then, sort of having a partnership with our customer who eventually decides to go with us that lasts for years and years and years. So very not transactional, very consultative, very hands-on, very managed, and so forth like that. We've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of customers all over the country and even in some other countries. Typically, that's people based in the Northeast who have offices remotely, but that's not always the case. We certainly have companies that are headquartered all over the United States and so forth like that. So the big question is, what does this guy use as criteria to choose what product he's going to do? So that's the first thing that should come to your mind on this screen. It's like, what is he going to? No, I'm kidding. This is a picture of me a million years ago with my horse. The big question is, why am I wearing a three-piece suit, and why did I even put this slide in here? Mostly to make sure that you're awake and that you're watching. I may come back to this, but probably not. The question that I asked myself and my mother, frankly, when I saw this picture is, did she not have any money for haircuts or what? Because that's incredibly odd. I don't know what the deal is there, and I'm pretty excited. I would say the biggest thing that comes up when we talk about collaboration, communication, voice systems now is, should I go to the cloud or not? That's not a question I'm going to spend a lot of time on today, but what I will talk about is a lot of people have decided to get many different applications via the cloud, whether there be email or Salesforce.com, CRM, like kinds of things. There's a lot of benefits to the cloud, especially around flexibility about where you work and how you consume it, things like that. It is a different financial model. I mean, you pay per user per month forever. You never own it. You're always doing that. But there's obviously some things that are easier to do in the cloud, like work from home and things like that. But that's not really the subject of what's going on today. The subject of what's going on today is how should you consume one of these cloud solutions? So for example, should you just go to the web and click a couple of things and then have something show up in the mail like Amazon? Or should you call a partner who will ask you questions, who will help you if you have a problem, who might even potentially have a van to drive out with a spare part? Like he or she might show up with a spare part and plug it in. Those of us who've been living sort of the consumptive model of cable TV or something else in the cloud know that many companies are incented to do as little as possible for as many people as possible to maximize their income and their profit. Sadly, for some technologies, and I'll use communications as an example, that doesn't always have a great outcome. If they sort of do minimal effort, you'll probably get an experience that is fraught with problems or confusion, poor training, poor troubleshooting. So what Harbor Networks endeavored to try to do was to find a way where we could take all the benefits of having a cloud solution, which I'll go into later, but still combine that with what we've been doing for 25 years, helping people understand how their business runs, help them understand how telephony or collaboration or conferencing, fits into that, how it works for them, make sure that their users actually know how to use it and not sort of limp by with minimal or no training. And so most of the cloud collaboration vendors out there have little interest in doing that. They want to do everything that they can from a giant call center, maybe or maybe not in the North America, right? They want you to call, they want you to be self-service, they want you to do as little, they want to do as little as possible. That's not our plan. And so our idea was to build something that we called Harbor Cloud, which was a partnership with a company who built a cloud platform on the back end. I didn't have enough time or money to build something from scratch, so I found a vendor called Intermedia, who's been around a long time, that has a great platform, who allowed us to partner with them so that we as Harbor Networks are the people who do the design, we're the people who do the install, we're the people who do the training, we're the people who do the support, but they're on the back end as a method to escalate. So in this realm, to compare us and to compare this solution to the other platforms is to compare the user experience. How is it going to be to call us when there's a question? How is it they're going to be to call us when there's a storm? Is it going to be the sort of Comcast cable experience where they call and ask you 10 questions to figure out who you are first and then start you in tier one where they ask you dumb questions or tell you to unplug it for 5 minutes and plug it back in? Or are they going to already know who you are, already have your information, potentially show up at your site with spare parts and plug them in for you and stay until it's broken? And that was our idea of Cloud 2.0, was to deliver the best of cloud product with the best of a partnership relationship. And that's kind of the big differentiator here. And I'll bring that up a couple more times, but it's important. So let's finally talk about what we're actually, what we actually get from the menu. So Elevate is really a product name for marketing purposes, so forth. And what you do is you have a company, you have a subscription. You say, I've got 50 people, give me 50 subscriptions for this. What do they get? Well, they obviously get the ability to make and receive telephone calls. So if you have a phone number, we can port that number so you can keep the same number and not have to tell anybody anything new. You could make those telephone calls from a physical phone, and I'll show you some pictures of that traditionally. You could make telephone calls from a computer application, sometimes called a soft phone. You could make and receive telephone calls from an application running on your smartphone or tablet, and we'll talk about that. You'll get unlimited long distance. You'll get to cancel all your phone lines, save some money there. You'll get all the traditional phone features you're thinking of, like transfer and conference and hold and paging and parking and all that kinds of traditional stuff like that. Where this starts to get more interesting, the older a phone system you have, is that this platform includes lots of other things, like being able to instant message everybody in your organization, whether they're at their desk or whether they're on the road or whatever that may be, or potentially even being able to send text messages to people who are outside of your organization, to not have to give away your cell phone number so someone can text you. You can give away your office number and have them text you. Obviously, being able to host meetings is used to the hilt these days. We're not sitting in conference rooms as much as we used to. So everybody being able to host a meeting, and that meeting could literally be 2 people. It doesn't have to be a whole group of people, but being able to talk, being able to turn your video camera on, being able to share your screen, this is standard fare, which frankly wasn't that case 10 years ago with telephony. People were more worried about whether you had voicemail or not. Now it's, can you instant message? Can you do meetings? Stuff like that. So that's all part of this. And I'll elaborate on every one of these as well. Another aspect of the solution is to support faxing, whether that's a physical fax machine that you have because you need to still feed the paper in that you signed, or whether it's giving everybody their own fax number so that the faxes show up in your email. Faxing won't die. It's going to be around forever because a lot of industries, they like the privacy of it, they like the physical nature of it, they like the low tech nature. So that's usually a feature as well. And some companies, they're sort of building a solution by gluing together a whole bunch of different subscriptions, whether it's an electronic fax or a separate Zoom account for meetings or a separate phone call, or phone system subscription, whatever. Keep in mind that everything I'm talking about is all in one package here. So simplicity will come into play using it, administration, and cost savings, because you're getting economies of scale by putting things together. Now, the other part that's often talked about now is collaboration. People are wanting to do team collaboration, which means a lot of different things to different people, whether that means a chat window like Slack or Microsoft Teams or something like that. We have a lot of those features built in as well, whether it's multi-party chat or uploading files or things like that. So that's all part of this as well. And then the last part that often sort of fits into the telephony side is companies that have a call center or a contact center, which is the better term these days, because sometimes those interactions with agents are more than just a telephone call. Some people take emails, some people take web chat, some people take SMSs, some people take feeds from Facebook Messenger, whatever that may be. But that's often something that's brought along as part of the solution, because they might have a tech support or a customer service group or whatever. So those are features all part of the package here. Most of these are built in. A few of them are a la carte, like the contact center. But the base level of what you get is actually fairly robust as well. The next point I wanted to make here is that, and this has become a sort of obvious, kind of a duh moment for those of us during the pandemic, is where can I consume this service from? Where can I work from? So many people are working not in the office. That may change, that may permanently change, that may go back. We'll see what happens. One of the sort of key benefits to cloud services is that you're not necessarily tied to a location anymore. You don't have to be in the building where the server is that has that application. And in this case, this is where we're really getting our bang for the buck for cloud collaboration. You could be at your house, you could be in the office, you could be in a sort of Regis virtual office, you could be in your car, you could be at Starbucks, whatever that may be. And it's presumed that all of these services could be used in all of those locations. You don't need to be in a physical building anymore where you have an office. That obviously has been a goal for a lot of companies and organizations for a long time. Realizing it has been a challenge based on internet connectivity and speeds and feeds and stuff like that. Certainly, those have gotten easier, and the applications have certainly caught up in this case. So, this Harbor Cloud Elevate platform uses the internet to connect the user to where this all is in multiple data centers across the United States that are active and all kinds of redundancy and things like that. So it should be less about where you're going to work rather than what you're going to do, and where you are is sort of irrelevant at that point. So assume that these can all be consumed everywhere. So this slide here really is just sort of the shopping list of all the things you get. You get local and long distance calling, that's unlimited. We can do international calling plans as well. We can reuse your phone number. You can send out caller ID name and send out your company name. You obviously get all the standard telephone stuff, conference transfer, park, hold, page, traditional things like that. I mentioned being able to send instant messages within the company. Those messages are either sent or received either on the computer application or your mobile or tablet application. They don't actually show up on the display of the telephone. That's never designed for that. And then I mentioned SMS messaging, which I'll bring up again, being able to send messages from your office number, which is actually the key there. This one, there might be some eye rolling, but as all of the people who've grown up with texting sort of age up into the workplace, they're going to expect that is as easy to do as sending an email to somebody. They're going to expect that text messaging is part of things. So we're ahead of the curve on that one. I mentioned being able to send and receive electronic faxes, whether that's sending them from your computer by printing, or whether that's uploading something to a web page. We have some HIPAA compliance that we can do in faxing as well, which is unique out there in industry. Obviously, you have a phone, you have a voicemail box. We do get voicemail messages. We do actually transcribe them. And we can send those messages to your computer application, to your mobile application, to your email. We can send that with the transcription and with the recording attached as a file so you can play it. That's sort of standard fare for people. You get the ability, as I said, to run an application on the mobile, on your mobile device, on your desktop app. And everybody gets their own conference bridge, like, well, not exactly like the one we're using today, a little bit more interactive where people can talk together. You can invite 200 people to call into your private number with a PIN. You can have them join via computer and use their speakerphones, their speakers and microphones, and turn on their camera and do multi-party video. I'll show some more examples of this as well. And I'd say the last thing that's part of our subscription is a file, cloud-based file storage in the similar vein as Dropbox or Microsoft OneDrive. There are some features that we have in this that the others don't, so which might make it attractive for some people, including some compliance that the others don't have. So let's stop, looking at these boring slides and actually look at some real features. I mentioned voicemail. I will tell you that our transcription voicemail, it's a better quality than you're probably used to. It's way better than the one on your iPhone. It's certainly better than the Google one. It's not perfect, which is why you always can play the recording, but it's actually very, very good about picking out the number. And as long as people don't mumble, it's very good as part of that as well. I mentioned SMS. Probably the fifth time I've mentioned it. Now that I've mentioned, you're going to start hearing it out there. Being able to send or receive a text message to your office number is a game changer for some people. Because I can give out my number and say, yeah, send me a text, send me an email. I don't really care, and know that it's being answered, corporate wise. It's not, on my cell phone. I'm not doing anything accidental and doing that a big deal. And I think this will become much more used as we move on in the next couple of years. We do some neat things with spam caller protection. Anyone who's not living in a cave has gotten a robocall from something, and probably worse lately. We will actually either block or tag those calls so that the caller ID will say something like fraud or spam, which will give you a heads up for you to decide whether you're going to answer the call or just let it go to voicemail and things like that. So that's a nice to have. I mentioned faxing. We can send and receive faxes. This just works. There's nothing fancy about it, but it's there. It's built in. If you're paying extra for that, it's time to let that go and use what we have built in here as well. We also have call recording built in. So whether or not you're going to record every call you're on, or whether you're going to do an on-demand where you just tap a key on your phone and it starts recording. In Massachusetts, we are required to notify both parties. So it can announce that the call's being recorded, or it can play the beep every 15 seconds like you're talking to the police. You get to sort of administratively decide, but this is not something you have to pay for extra. And at the end of the recording, you'll get an email with the recording on it, and you can save that, whether it's your favorite thing or whether you're using it for compliance or training purposes or whatever. So that's built in as well. So now sort of switching into, what does this actually look like? So I mentioned early on that you could obviously make and receive phone calls from a telephone handset, and I'll show you some pictures of that. There are different models to choose from. Some people are really getting into the running a software program on their computer and using soft phone mode. And some people, or frankly, a lot of people, are installing an app on their mobile phone to make and receive phone calls. So I'll show you some examples of this. Every user can have 5 different active devices. So they could have a phone at the office, they could have a phone at their house, they could have their mobile phone, they could have their laptop. They can juggle all this. And if all of them are plugged in and running at the same time and someone calls, you could have all 5 of them ring at the same time, and you just pick up whichever one is convenient for you. So let's look at the computer application for a minute. This is something that can run on a Windows PC or a Macintosh. It's the same. This is the kind of thing where I would come in and I could type somebody's name and say call them, and my desk phone will ring and I can pick it up and call them. Or if I'm using it in soft phone mode, it will just ring and I'll use my handy headset. It could also be potentially where I come in and I do instant messaging. Which you can see this screenshot here. I'm typing some messages to the demo guy with the good hair. It could also be where I come in and I look at my voicemail messages and read them and play them or forward them to other people. Maybe look at my call history to see how many calls I missed or how long I was on the phone with my lawyer to make sure that their bill was right or whatever, that kind of stuff. Um, I don't. One of the things this enables me to do is not need to know everyone's extension, because I can sort of sort through and just type their name and find them, and decide whether I want to call them on their phone number or instant message them or SMS. Sort of a communications hub is there as well. The other parts of this, are some cool things like, starting my conference bridge or inviting people to my conference bridge from this application. So I don't need to log into anything else. I can just click on the little movie camera icon and then invite somebody or start my bridge or whatever that may be. And even getting access to that cloud file storage. So if I wanted to look at that and share a file out with somebody out on the outside world, I can click into it from this application and share them a web link for them to get that file I was trying to see. Now, if I'm a contact center agent, this might also be where I come in and look at how many calls are in queue and log in and log out and stuff like that. I may show this to you interactively in a minute, but I wanted to get through some more global stuff here. My next slide is some screenshots about what the application looked like if you're running it on your mobile phone or tablet. This is some screenshots from my iPhone. You can see I have sort of the same buddy list. And this will show me, what their number is, but it will also show me presence, like are they on the phone? Are they in Do Not Disturb? Are they not at their desk? So you can see Kevin has a little yellow clock on it, which means he hasn't moved his mouse or keyboard in the last 10 minutes. So it's probably not a good idea for me to instant messaging him because he's not going to be there anyway. But Nick's currently busy or demos on the phone or whatever. But here, in this application, I can receive telephone calls, but they're looking like they're coming from my office number. So even though I'm holding my cell phone in my hand, I can make that call and it says Harbor Networks. And if somebody calls me back, it goes to Harbor Networks, goes to my professional voicemail and things like that. This is a boon to people who are making a lot of calls as doctors or whatever that may be, and they want to hide their voice identity. And I can still be on my mobile phone and still do a conference call and transfer it. I could technically be the receptionist screening calls where he pushes buttons and sends calls to the various people in the company as well. And then some other screenshots of things like my voicemail, and there's the transcription of the voicemail and the play button in case I want to hear it, or maybe even instant messages or SMS messages on my mobile. And these will pop up, like they do for a standard message on your phone. You'll know that even if your phone's locked, you'll be able to get all these things. This has been a real key tool for people during the pandemic working remotely, is to have an application working on their mobile phone. There are the ability to silence this. So if you're sick of constantly your mobile phone ringing all the time because people are calling you in the office, there's ways to silence it. There are even ways to schedule it to say, between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 a.m., don't ring my mobile phone app at all. So they've already gone past that, shiny phase of a cool tool to how do I make it not be annoying and ruin my personal life, that kind of thing. So that's all part of that as well. And that last part, besides desktop and mobile, physical handsets. We've got some pretty handsets to put on the desk with lots of buttons and color screens and headsets and all kinds of things. Now, remember, I said early on, we're delivering this over the internet, so you could technically put one of these handsets anywhere you want. It could be at the office, it could be at your house, it could be at your RV, or if you really wanted to do that, you just need internet connectivity. And whether that's plugged into the internet or whether maybe your home office is really far away from your cable modem, there are Wi-Fi options that you can plug into the back of these phones, so that all the phone needs is power. And you plug it in. So this has also become a big deal. And it's done properly, where the phone works the same as your office phone, or maybe you don't have an office phone, maybe you work permanently at home, but carefully done so that if you call 911 from this phone, it reports the address of where the phone really is, not sending your phone to State Street in Boston, right? You want to make sure that's part of that as well. So lots of options here. There are even more choices than this. These are popular ones that we sell a lot. And sometimes they're sold and sometimes they're rented. Sometimes they're bundled into that subscription cost so that there's no capital outlay at all as well. And for those of us who really like old school, we can even put sidecars on phones and show a lot of different people and pretend it's the mid 1980s and we're keeping track of our staff, however that may be. One of the things that I'm going to talk about here, this feature here, is I've sort of implied that you could potentially have your phone number ring in a lot of different places. Well, what happens if you're walking down the hallway, your phone rings, you pick it up on your mobile phone, and then you sort of walk back into your office and you notice that your mobile phone is either starting to get hot or the battery's almost done. You might want to move the call from one device to another. Um, there is a function both on the mobile app and the desktop app and the physical phone to flip the call between devices. So you could tap a button on your mobile phone and the call will be briefly put on hold in silence, and then your other device will ring. So you could move the phone over your desktop and answer that call, or vice versa. You could be stuck on a call at 4:59 on a Friday and you're dying to leave, or you got to catch the train or whatever that may be. You can push a button on the phone and it starts ringing on your mobile phone, and pick it up and take it with you. And the person, other than a small period of silence, is none aware of what's happened there. So they've sort of thought about the edge cases of how convenient it is to have these things, but then how easy it is to use them as well. Now, I've been throwing a lot of features at the audience here. Um, Keep in mind that part of the important nature of this is not just to give somebody a menu of features, but to actually teach them how to use them. So it's always a key part of our process here is to do training, and whether that training is people sitting in a room around a projector, practicing and showing how to do things, or whether it's giving people self-paced training or short YouTube videos for the short attention span theater of which the world is these days, or whether it's giving people printed materials. We are very flexible. We don't always do the same thing for everybody. We don't even do the same thing for different audiences, whether it's attorneys or doctors or car salesmen or whatever that may be. So teaching people how to use these things are key, and trying to make them easy to use is also key as well. So I'll blast by this screen on conference phones. If we ever end up having meetings again and sit in a room, we might need these, but if we don't, we're all going to be on headsets for the rest of our lives. I did want to get to the meeting aspect of this because this is a big thing that's been used the heck out of lately. So in a subscription, every user gets one of these. They get a phone number to call, and there are local numbers to call, and there are also some internationals to call or whatever, and they get a pin where you can invite somebody to a conference call. You as the host, you can join that call as easy as just clicking a button in your application. You're connected, it calls you in. You don't have to type any pins or do anything like that. So it's as easy as pie for you to join and host that meeting. Now, people could join obviously by calling the number. They could join like you're doing today, where they fired up a web browser and they joined. For those of you who joined this meeting with Google Chrome, or maybe that new Microsoft Edge, which is really based on Chrome, you might have noticed that you didn't need to download anything. You just joined the meeting and you were in. That's a great feature. If you join from some of the other browsers, you might need to download an app, but we don't hit you over the head with that. We don't make you do that. So if more of the world gets WebRTC compatible, then that will be even more browsers. But making an attendee join the meeting and make it easy for them is a key part of this as well. And then once they're joined in their computer, they could decide, rather than calling in, they could just use the speakers and microphone built into their laptop or computer, which up until about 9 months ago was more difficult than it is now. Now everybody has a camera and a speaker and microphone because they had to, because they're kids or for meetings or whatever that may be. And while we're on the meeting, we can share our screen. We can turn on cameras. We can do 30-party, multi-party video conferencing. We can either do the grid, the Brady Bunch grid, or we can do Top Talker, things like that. We can record these conference calls. We can chat. We can write notes during the meeting. If you wanted to transcribe the meeting recording, you can. We can do a lot of different features. I think that the use case for doing meetings is different for everybody. Some people will never have a meeting with more than 4 people. Some people will try to have a giant meeting with 100 people and so forth. You have to use the right tool for the job. Here, we're not limited to a ton of attendees. We can do 100 attendees. We can only have 30 people on the video at the same time, but that's a really big meeting at that point. And at some point, how useful it is to do that. I mean, there are certainly other programs out there that can host hundreds and hundreds of people, or even in this case, a webinar here where we don't let you turn your camera on and you're a listener only and stuff like that. So, this is doing almost everything what people are looking for, and frankly, most of what people are looking for in a very, very easy way to use this. So if I quickly pop over to my application here, so this is actually my program live on the system here, and you can see I've got a bunch of chats. If I pop over to my meeting, you can see I have this big blue button here where I can start my meeting right now. Or I could click a button to send an email to somebody, and just pop up an email, and it includes all the information you need to join my meeting. But if I, as the host, if all I have to do is just push a button to start the meeting and then see who's joining and mute people who are being loud or whatever, that means that I'll be more likely to run a meeting, and I'll be a better host for the meeting. And that's what we're shooting for. We're shooting for things to be easy enough to use that people use them properly. We're not trying to recreate the VCR, which was a disaster in its ability for people to use it other than pressing play. The whole recording thing was just a disaster. So keeping things easy to use is, in my opinion, sometimes as important as whether you have the feature. If it's too hard to use, it's like the feature doesn't exist. And anyone who's used Microsoft Office realizes that the button bar on the top of Microsoft Word has gotten way out of control. There's just too many things in there and people don't even know how to use it. So, being able to do stuff really quick or type notes into the meeting that at the end of the meeting everybody gets automatically and stuff like that. Mute people, lock the meeting, that kinds of stuff. So, ease of use is a key aspect in doing this. And that's why we're so excited about the fact that things are built into the application, whether it's instant messaging, whether it's call center functionality, whether it's voicemail, whether it's, just taking a quick look of everybody in my company and seeing whether they're on the phone or not. And I can see Cam, I just got off the phone, and maybe I'll send her an instant message, or maybe I'll call her, or whatever that may be. So key part of that as well. So we're coming up to the end of my demonstration here. We'll get to the point where you can answer some Q&A if you want. Here's a wonderful picture of everyone who's gone to a professional hairdresser to get ready for the meeting, which never is the case, right? Everyone has perfect lighting, but it's always good to show an example. So you can do this, and I would hope that they, there's no way this guy in the lower left-hand corner is on the conference call because he's standing outside, but maybe he's holding his phone. I don't know. It's all part of that. Just keep in mind that video conferencing is here to stay. It's never going away, right? So we're going to have to get better lighting. We're going to have to get better haircuts, whatever. Certainly not like that poor kid in the beginning of my demonstration. Last thing I'm going to talk about here is the file storage. And this is one of those things where someone's going to say, well, I already have one of those. Why do I need one? A couple of things I'll point out. One is that we have a complete full audit log for everything that happens. So that if somebody deletes a file or adds a file, that is shown. All of the file storage is HIPAA and PCI compliant at rest and encrypted at rest. There's the ability to roll back. The agents that you can install in desktops back up more than just their Dropbox folder or OneDrive folder. We can actually back up the files on their desktop, as well as the files in their documents and downloads folder. This is a boon for IT administrators who deal with people who get their laptop stolen and then complain that they lost all the critical files that they left as icons on their desktop. Here we can back all those up as well. We also do virus scanning, things like that. And my favorite one is that you can actually install an agent for this on a file server and then actually back up the file server that way. So it's a little bit different, has some features that I think are competitive against some of the other platforms. But sometimes it's hard to compete with things that are automatically built in on everyone's desks, like OneDrive. So that's fine. These are applications you can disable and not use. But I bring them up because they're differentiators as well. So sort of bringing stuff back here, you could go through a demonstration of anybody's cloud communication system for many of the competitors out there, and they would show most, if not all, of the same features. But to remind you of my thesis at the beginning of the statement was, it's important to consume this from someone who's going to help you and be there and be not just a faceless, nameless call center. It's going to be somebody who is consultative, who is patient, who's willing to send somebody out to your office location and sort of deliver the best of that MSP partner relationship with the best of a cloud platform in the back end of this. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing companies who we're attracted to the bare bones, cheap as you can get cloud offerings, not renewing those contracts and looking for something better because they've experienced the Ocean State job lot version of the beach chair, and now they're ready to buy a better one, right? So that's kind of the thing we've seen, company wise. We're also seeing a huge influx of customers trying to plan for the flexibility of being able to work remotely from anywhere, and knowing that this isn't just an anomaly, that this may need to be something that they need to support long term, that flexibility, working from anywhere and using features like collaboration and meetings and things like that. But trying not to forget that they don't want to be told to unplug it and plug it back in 5 minutes later. They want better troubleshooting. They want hand holding when appropriate. They want accountability, and not just accountability from a call center and stuff like that. So that's my spiel. I'll let Kristen and Jordan see if anybody has any comments or whether they just want to make fun of my hair from the picture in the beginning.
No, no, we
Yeah.
would never do that, Jeremy. Not at all.
And so I didn't even mention the 3-piece green suit I was wearing. I mean, so there's a lot of things going on in that picture, but it was mostly just to make people pay attention. So thanks very much.
I'm looking forward to hearing the story about that, just so you know.
That is
We
my
do have,
horse, though. I did actually own that horse as a kid, and his name
okay.
Oh,
was
wow.
Sundance, and he was a nice guy. He was a great companion.
All right, so
Oh,
it's not just for the picture, it was
No,
legit.
no, I
All
wasn't
right,
posing. That was in my backyard. I was celebrating something and wanted him to join in. I guess, I don't know. It's pretty funny.
that's awesome.
Go to be
We do have
12
a,
again.
wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah.
Just no more snow days now.
Yeah.
So we do have a couple questions. The first one is actually for you, Jeremy. What are your personal top 3 favorite features in order?
Uh, well, they may or may not be in order, but I'll tell them. So, the application that I use on my mobile app um, is incredibly useful. And it's great to be able to walk away from my desk and still answer a call, a message, or a voicemail. So that's in my top 3. I would also say that voicemail transcription, it's kind of standard fare, but really hasn't been that case in business phone systems. That's in my top 3 as well, because I don't want to always have to listen. I can surreptitiously read a voicemail transcription much quicker than I can play for those as well. And then I would say, instant messaging, um, while not typically a phone system feature, now as a collaboration feature, we use that constantly. It is really it's sometimes a much faster way than calling somebody, and it's a much faster way than sending somebody an email, because I can see that they're on the phone, and I can ask them a message, and they can go back and forth. And honestly, in that instant messaging window, I could get sick of talking to this guy, who I'm demoing. I can click on the call button and then it calls him and we can sort of escalate up. Or I could even click on the meeting button and then we can get on a video call and share our screens together. So really, mobile app and transcription and instant messaging are my 3 faves.
Perfect.
Yep.
The next one, can phones be reused from a previous system with this?
So I would say it depends. We typically reuse conference phones. Um, but what happens on the desktop phones is a lot of manufacturers or partners that are hosted, they sort of lock their phones down with proprietary firmware versions, and they lock down the passwords. And sort of what happens is the labor to reuse that phone, to factory reset it, to firmware upgrade it, is so prohibitive once you get to high numbers, so that it might cost you $50 labor per phone to reuse the phone, only to reuse a phone that's 3 or 4 years old, where it becomes not financially worth it and you should just get a new phone. So, when we talk about conference room phones where the numbers are usually much smaller, but if I'm talking about like a 55 phone company, to swap those over it's so labor intensive to do, and there is a failure rate on some of them, that the risk is there. And then coupled with the fact that you can't do that work until you're actually going to switch over. So now not only are you paying labor to do that, but you're probably paying after hours labor to do that, that financially for a lot of people, it doesn't make sense. Now, if you're going to do that yourself, that's always negotiable. So it's part of that. But most of our customers have not reused phones other than potentially conference room phones.
Okay. And one last question. Can SMS be used outside the organization or only with internal users?
So its intent is to be used outside the organization. So you can certainly SMS somebody internally, but you might as well just instant message them. But yes, I could send an SMS to my mom and her cell phone from my office number, and that's kind of the idea. The idea is to get it to work on the outside, whether you're communicating with a customer or a partner or whatever that may be. So yeah, that's its intent, is to be used outside.
Great. Doesn't seem that we have any other questions right now. So if anyone does have any questions, please reach out to the rep that got you involved and invited you, or you can reach out to Jordan or I directly. And I think that's it for everyone.
Yeah, I appreciate the chance to show things off, and it's it's not going away. People are gonna, now that they've had a taste of working remotely and they figured it out, they're gonna want to be able to work everywhere. So I think these kinds of solutions will start to be standard fare for people. Not everybody. I mean, a doctor's office needs to have people in there, but yeah, I really think that this is a wave that's not gonna break for a long time.
For sure, and having the ability to be the partner that supports and installs, I think that's a big differentiator as well. You don't see that a lot out there in the industry when it comes to hosted platforms.
No, yeah, I mean, not everyone's willing to come to your office and fix things when somebody does something awry, and that's always, you always have to plan for the worst, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I guess that's it. Jordan, any last words from you?
No, thanks so much. It's been a great last hour with everyone.
Yep, it's a
All right.
privilege to present to you folks, so thanks very much.
Jeremy,
We
next time
appreciate
we need a timeline of your hair photos. That's what we need next time. Like
Yeah.
over the years.
I'll try to find another one too. Yeah, let me bring it up one last time so you can see this too, just so you can really. I mean, look at the tie, and there's even a vest. I mean, oh my God, yeah, it's
I
I
incredible.
think
hope
you
you
look
were going
really
to,
sharp for a kid.
yeah, maybe you were going to a wedding. Who knows?
I couldn't tell you. It was a long time ago. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I'd pay for some of that hair, but not anymore.
You're even getting heart eye
Working-
emojis. This is a good
Yeah,
day.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's
love
good.
emojis coming through.
Yeah.
That shows you how much people like it.
Hey, we're the monkeys is all I can say. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next month. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye now.
Thank you.